Hello, dear friends. Happy New Year. Welcome to the year 2020. That is so nuts. I can't believe it's been 2 decades since the millennium started, and we are now officially in a decade that can be referred to as the 20s. Next is the 30s. Kind of mind-blowing, in my opinion, if you think about it. So, what is today's video about? As you know from the title, I just really want to share some reflections from my own life in the last year. I really enjoy doing that, primarily to really glean some lessons that I can take into making 2020 even better. And before I get into this video, I do want to just acknowledge those of you who have had a hard year. I can completely empathize with that feeling of frustration, maybe even anger, of looking around at people who seem kind of to be at their personal best. They are excited for the year ahead. The last year was amazing. They can't wait to see what more happens. For some of you, this is completely unrelatable, and for many of you, you might not feel seen or understood. And so I just want to encourage you that no matter what has occurred over the last year, if you feel totally broken, if you feel flat, like there's not much hope going forward or clarity going forward, know that I'd be happy to be a support for you. In my coaching services, I do walk a lot of clients through releasing negative emotions from the past, even if it's the recent past, and helping them to get clarity and just acknowledge the next best step they can take, and then the next one and the next one. But even if you're not interested in coaching, I do want to say that as you feel broken, the next step is rebuilding. And as you rebuild, as difficult as this is, the rebuilding process is full of choices you can make that will define and create your next year, your next step, your next phase of life. So as much as you can, only look to the past to learn. Realize that hardships force us to learn things that we probably would never voluntarily learn on our own, or ways that we will grow in ways that we would never grow if we were not forced to do so. So realize that you've gotten through the hardest part. You've done the things and been through the things you never wanted to go through, and now you get to rebuild. Now you get even more freedom in choosing who you want to be and how you want to behave going forward in the kind of life you want to live. So I just want you to know that I'm here for you. I believe in you. And I know that new beginnings, though they're very difficult, they can be refreshing, exciting, and full of really empowering choices that are there to be made. So that's just my word to those of you who could use a little bit more understanding right now. So first, I kind of want to just talk to you about 2019 in review and share with you some of my biggest takeaways and some highlights as well from the year. And of course, there were some lows, and so I might talk about that as well. We'll see, but I want to just share with you kind of the gist of the last year. It was really a year of experimentation. I feel like I started with a pretty blank slate. This was the year after I decided to stop dancing professionally, and ever since that point, which was at the beginning of 2018, so it's been 2 years now since I decided to leave the professional world. And ever since then, I've been in the rebuilding, or rather building process of my life. It has kind of felt like one large transition, and so that's why I can empathize so much with some of you who are going through a really hard time and starting the rebuilding process of your life and trying to find familiarity, trying to find rhythms, trying to figure out what is the new normal for me now. That's hard, and it takes a long time, but it can be exciting. And so over the last year, I feel like 2018 was first really just kind of figuring out, like, who am I now? What am I doing? What is going on? In 2019, a lot of those questions got answered, and then I started to take practical steps to really live out the new life I've chosen for myself and go in the direction I feel called to go in. But still, everything was very new. My coaching business was very new at the beginning of 2019. I wasn't sure actually at that time if I was going to really jump back into dance again. I had just taken like 6 months off from dance. I just really needed a break. This was at the beginning of 2019, and I was just ready in 2019 to just try things and just see what worked. And that's really what the whole year was about. I created an online program. I did one-on-one coaching. I tried dancing again, and I performed twice. That was amazing. I tried in-person workshops, so I did speaking engagements, and I tried all sorts of different educational programs to figure out, like, okay, how do I become really good at not only the practice of what I do as a coach, but how do I also start to grasp the business side of things, which is very hard. Since I'm in business on my own practically, I'm kind of, I guess, what could be called a solopreneur. And so I kind of have to wear all the hats at once. And that was a lot to begin to grasp. I don't want to say figure out because I haven't figured it out yet. But I'm really grateful for 2019 because I'm proud of how many things I tried and how many things worked, and then also how I handled the amount of things that totally didn't work. I'm proud of myself for at least trying, because there were a lot of emails I sent reaching out to schools to lead workshops at their summer programs, and there were plenty of pitches I made here and there. I put myself out there for so many no's, and I received a lot of no's. But honestly, with all this experimentation I did, I realized that towards the end of the year, I was just piling more and more and more things on my plate, looking for more knowledge, more things to add to my life, more ideas, more projects to hopefully get me the result I wanted. And towards the end of the year, I was getting overwhelmed and pretty stressed, and I did not create, rather, the space in my life and in my schedule to really do things very well, and to do it with a sense of ease and confidence that actually helped me in the process of doing whatever I was doing. And it really, actually, in filling up my life so much, it actually became really challenging to keep a good perspective, a positive perspective, one of belief that, I can do it, belief that things will work, belief that I can figure things out. I kind of just noticed I started to descend into a little bit more like, let's just get through this kind of an attitude. And so when I realized that towards the end of December, and I'm so blessed to have been able to take a break for Christmas and spend time with my family, I realized, like, oh my gosh, what I want for this next year is to bravely, cut out all the things that I've tried now that I can see clearly are not working. I want to also take what I saw that worked and just focus on that, keep a very simple, methodical approach. And already we are 2 days into 2020, when I'm filming this, and I feel so much happier. And the other really big thing from this last year is I made my life primarily about my business. And I'm not going to say that didn't get me places. I certainly had a lot of growing to do in my business, and I care about it, and I'm passionate about growing it. I'm passionate about reaching new dancers and helping new dancers and more dancers, and creating a larger impact, and also figuring out the best way to do that. But again, in that theme of starting to lose perspective towards the end of the year, even though I had so many great things going on, I realized that it was actually working against me at a certain point to make my whole life really revolve around my business. My working hours were crazy. That's all I was thinking about. That's the only way I was measuring success. That was the only success I was really pursuing as well, was, in my business. And that not only worked against how I was able to operate in my business, but my overall satisfaction in my life. It was actually beginning to be very overwhelming and disempowering. And so really my commitment to myself in 2020 is to have a higher value for other areas of my life that are separate from my business. I want to have kind of that perspective of, yeah, my business matters, my work matters, I love it, but it's not who I am, it's not my life, and it's not the only thing worth pursuing. And so I really aim to have reasonable business hours and to kind of have a clock in, clock out approach, because this is healthy. Just like in ballet, I kind of learned to leave ballet behind at the end of the day in order to protect my mental health and my overall well-being. I'm also learning to do that in my business too. And so I'm really excited for this next year. My words for the year are I want to have simplicity in my business and space in my life. Space in my life to, meet up with a friend or a mentor where I live during the week. Space in my life to have an actual weekend and not work most of the day on Saturdays. There are so many other things I want to invest in, like serving in my church community or, things like that. I would love to perform again, and that definitely takes some time. So I want to have that. I want to create that space in my life. And I'm using the term create very consciously in this video because I want to show you guys that the more we take on that responsibility and accept our responsibility in making better choices instead of waiting for better things to happen to us, the faster we're going to see the results we want to see. So when I say it's my choice to create a simpler model of business, I'm not saying I generally want my business to be more simple. I'm using these words to communicate to myself that achieving this goal is a process of making daily simple choices towards that end goal. And it's in my hands. Okay, so that aside, I really do want to share some of the highlights from 2019. This is just going to be a really brief overview because there were a lot of things that happened that were really exciting, and then a lot of kind of not super successful things that happened that I'm also pretty proud of because I was able to learn from them that, I'm going to have to skip over for time's sake. But my highlights from the year were certainly first in January. That's like when I really embraced my niche and the fact that I want to commit to working with dancers and affecting change in the ballet community. This was so exciting because I felt like I was really stepping into embracing my past and understanding how all that training, all that experience, it wasn't for nothing. I actually can take my past and use it to help people, and that was super exciting while also pretty scary, because the reason I held off on specifically saying like I help dancers is because I had this limiting belief, of course, that no dancer would want to pay me or they couldn't pay me, which thankfully hasn't been true. I'm also really proud of the fact that I tried a bunch of things, and this was really the year of experimentation, like I might have already said. And even though it was full of a lot of just, I guess, having a fractured focus, like trying one thing or going to the next or looking for the next thing to do, and I'm proud of the fact that I just tried things and it taught me a lot. Though over the next year, that's definitely part of the reason why I want to simplify my focus, my business, and my life. But part of what I was able to do through just having this attitude of, well, let's just try, is I was able to first, I did a webinar, and that was really exciting. I did that in January, and I had never done anything like that before, and only like 3 people got on the call, and then quite a few others ordered the recording afterwards. But it was just like a really kind of fun start that I was proud of myself for just trying it and just doing it and doing my best, without waiting for the feeling of being totally perfect and ready. I also got back into ballet this year after taking a few months off at the end of 2018 to kind of just focus on other parts of my life and kind of just further let go of that identity that I was just a dancer. And so that time served its purpose, but in January I got back into ballet, and by April I was able to perform again, and that was so exciting. I performed at the Easter Sunday service at my church, and that was super amazing and meaningful. I loved it so much. I'm so grateful for that. And then later in December, as a lot of you know if you follow me on Instagram, I got to perform Dewdrop in a local production of The Nutcracker. And that was just absolutely incredible, so fun, so awesome. I still need to make that video on some things I learned about what mindset I had that actually went into that being one of the best performances of my life, despite being like kind of out of shape. So you can look forward to that soon. I also got a couple speaking engagements, and I got to do workshops both in Austin, talking to dancers about things ranging from how to increase your confidence to how to use your ballet training to be successful in any career path. I did a couple of those and it was really exciting. It was nerve-wracking. I was scared, but I ended up having a lot of fun when I just got out there and did it. So I'm proud of that. I also, in August, this was like probably one of the biggest highlights of my year, I got to travel to Alaska. I was invited to go to little Kodiak Island off the coast of Alaska to go teach at this little studio called Next Step Dance in Kodiak. If any of you guys are watching, I miss you guys. I would love to come visit again. Seriously, it was such a pleasure to go teach there and just to be able to travel to share my message and to do what I love, which is empowering other dancers to find joy in their dancing and to be good people, you know? So that was a really enriching, amazing experience. The whole week I was just like, I cannot believe I'm being paid to come to Alaska, which is incredibly gorgeous in the summertime, and teach and do some workshops for the dancers. And the parents, some parents came and really enjoyed it as well. And so it really ignited in me this passion and this vision to do more things like that and to go out and do workshops at different studios all over the US and I hope one day all over the world. And I actually have another one of those coming up in February. So also if you're a studio owner, or you want to recommend me to your studio owner or school director, I am available to travel to come speak and present workshops and seminars at your local dance school. Yeah, so you can contact me for that. I'm also really proud of the fact that in January, no, it was a little too late. This year, I'm going to be doing this in this month now, but last year around April or so, I sent out a bunch of emails to different schools all across the US, some really big training programs to offer to come speak and provide either mental health seminars or, you know, things on, like I said, how to increase your confidence, how to adopt the mindset of a professional dancer, things like that, or even talks on body image. I was going to talk about that as well. And so I pitched that idea to a bunch of schools, like big name schools. And even though it turned out to be a little too late in the year to set that up, I got a surprising amount of interest. So I'm hoping, I'm praying that this year with a better strategy and a bit more experience, you might see me coming to speak at your summer intensive this year. Let's hope. I'm gonna do everything I can to make that happen. So I was proud of myself for that, and now this year I look forward to actually doing it. I also want to share one thing that was a really surprising pivot in this year, which was that actually the ballet studio that I teach at in the evenings, which is a place I absolutely adore. It's my outlet. I love teaching ballet so much. I would never give it up, at least not at this point in my life, even if I was making $1 million, you know. I just love being with the students and supporting them. And the studio I've been teaching for actually surprisingly and suddenly almost shut down at the beginning of the summer. And I was really devastated by this. I thought I was never going to be able to see my students again and say goodbye to them. And I was going to miss them. You know, a lot of them are preteens. I wanted to see them grow up and, you know, flourish. And so I was really devastated by that. And actually, right after I got the news of that, I was sitting in my car, like absolutely sobbing. I was so upset, so heartbroken. And right after that, I got the idea to basically cut my prices for my coaching programs in half and like really be serious about getting that news and that invitation out to as many dancers as possible that if they wanted to try mindset coaching with me, this was the time to do it. And I knew that what the value I was providing was like 10 times more than the price I was charging. And that confidence actually is what really, for real, started my business. And it really made me believe that so much of maybe the lack of success I had before was really because I was hiding. I wasn't sure of my value. I wasn't sure, like, if, I was really good at what I did as a coach, and that, like, really gave me the confidence to be like, no, this is good. You're crazy if you wanted to do this, and you're gonna not do it this month, give it a try. And that confidence like really built my business, and it was just so exciting to see and to learn like I could have that confidence all the time and get those results all the time, and it turned out that the studio didn't close. And so I got the ballet studio back, and throughout that near tragedy, some huge doors opened. July was also the month that I decided that now with the ability to invest in this, I'd been saying that I wanted to learn NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming. And what NLP is basically is a field of modeling excellence. So it is the study of how to model excellence. And so it's fantastic for mindset coaches like myself. And there are also many therapeutic tools and techniques to help people embody excellence in themselves. And first, if necessary, in order to do so, release pain, fear, anxiety, limitations from your past through these techniques. And so it's an incredibly powerful coaching and therapeutic range of tools that I've brought into my coaching practice in order to help clients get even better results even faster and create lasting change in their the way they perceive themselves and their behaviors and even the way they generally feel day to day. And so I knew I wanted to learn this for a while. I have had some experience working with the NLP practitioner before, and I found it extremely helpful and really fascinating. But I just hadn't really decided to bite the bullet. So after that really good month in June, that was almost a really bad month, but things turned around. After that, I decided to actually look into training programs for NLP. And I thought, if I find something, I'll just do the practitioner level. I just want to get started with NLP. I don't think I need to do master practitioner. But then very shortly after doing some research and getting on the phone with one of the people from admissions in the company I trained with, I was like, you know what? If I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. It's kind of my attitude about a lot of things. And I decided to go ahead and sign up for not only practitioner level training, but master practitioner training, where at the master practitioner level, you really learn tools that deal with people's deep seated issues. And I really wanted the skill set to be able to do that beyond just coaching people through getting people out of their current perspective so they can see new solutions and actions they could take, and then holding them accountable to that potential. I really wanted to go so much deeper in my work. And so I'm super proud that I was able to invest in that and take 3 weeks of my fall to basically get trained and certified at the master practitioner in the NLP method. So I have loved having these tools at my disposal, and it's been really, really thrilling to see amazing results in my clients because of this decision I made. And next, as a lot of you guys know, I decided to create that online program called the Come Back Stronger course for injured dancers. And this was so much work. And I think I sat on this idea and tried to perfect it for way too long. But I learned so much through the process, and I'm really proud of myself for creating it. Now, I still need to market it so much better because I know thousands of dancers can use this course and very few have yet to take advantage of it, to be honest. But I'm super proud of myself for following my inspiration and, really taking action to support a population of dancers that I really empathize with and I really care about, because I know how hard and gut-wrenching it is sometimes to go through a very challenging injury by yourself. And I wanted to share everything I learned and all the things I learned that actually provided results in my recovery and allowed me to recover not only physically but emotionally from that process. I put all that in the program. And I'm so proud of the value that it provides. So yeah, I'm really, really happy I did that. I also got to travel to Italy on vacation with my sister, and that was so special. I'm so grateful that I got to do that. Traveling is something I really value in my life, and it's something I just would love to continue to prioritize in my life whenever possible. I just think whenever I travel, my mind expands. I get outside of my little box that I tend to live in sometimes. We can all get stuck in our routines, and even though I know it's a huge privilege to be able to travel, even taking a road trip to the next town or trying something new in your city, just getting outside of your box and the life that you think is normal, and maybe experiencing someone else's normal, seeing another country's normal. That is something that continually inspires me to be better, to continue to expand myself, and to continue to, get outside of my definition of this is what I think is right, this is what I think is good, and this is what I think I should do. To challenge myself to see other opportunities is to have more, opportunities to choose a better way. Because until you know what's out there, you can't make choices on what you don't know exists, if that makes sense. And so, yeah, I love how travel just refreshes me and expands my perspective. I also really, really want to mention one very profound part of my year, which actually did happen at master practitioner training for NLP. I actually learned how to do a coaching session called a breakthrough session, which is basically a 6 to 8 hour coaching session where you go deep into not only your personal history and you get a really foundational understanding of what made you who you are, what formed your perspective. And then that process also exposes areas and decisions that you might have made long ago based off of significant emotional events that actually ended up negatively impacting you for years. And so when I went through a breakthrough session myself, I realized that it was so funny. I was so blocked off to healthily, like in a healthy way, expressing and processing through and releasing and even acknowledging negative emotions that I feel. I did not realize to the extent to which I was suppressing really hurtful things that had happened, especially in my pre-professional training. I had a teacher who said some things to me that were very formative. I'll just say that. It really impacted the way that I actually learned to suppress my emotions and completely, for other people, I don't see other people as being weak when they express emotions. And in fact, like my times of pain in my life have made me more empathetic, and I really have needed to grow in empathy for sure. So it's something I consciously work on. But I didn't realize that I had no acceptance, basically, or empathy for my own emotions and my own hardships and my own fears that I had completely suppressed from that very hard time in my life. And there was this narrative still going on in my head that actually created this huge trigger. Well, long story short, in master practitioner training, after that breakthrough session, I made the commitment to myself to actually start processing my emotions when I feel them, instead of pushing them down and getting through my day. I used to look at emotions like something that they're inefficient, they are bad, they have no point. I would just push them away to the point where I would do so unconsciously. I wouldn't even acknowledge to myself that I was actually sad or angry. And so I decided to go through this really scary journey of just committing to myself that when I feel something, first I'm going to name that feeling. So I start to kind of grow in my emotional awareness, but then also talk about it and then let it go instead of harboring it and feeling in control by just pushing it down and keeping it inside. And that has been terrifying, quite frankly. It's been hard. It has changed the way I see myself. Sometimes when I have kind of an outburst of emotion, because I didn't learn how to actually process it in the moment, I lose control. And that's like kind of scary to admit on the internet, but I'm just sharing this because I don't know if some of you dancers out there have also picked up the habit through your dance training of learning to suppress your emotions instead of process through them. But it's been very difficult. It's been a journey, and it's been very humbling to see how when I now have chosen to face the we'll say huge opportunity for growth in my life. And it's also caused me to face the reality of what it has done to me to suppress all that, and how, because I've suppressed it, I never learned how to properly acknowledge and function while having the emotion because I have just suppressed it down. So that's been really hard, and it made me realize that I actually had a huge trigger that I'm still working through of being told I'm unintelligent, or feeling like someone's referencing or alluding to the idea that I'm unintelligent. Like, because of this trauma I went through, I realized that's something I still need to clear out because it's untrue. It's not something I need to worry about. And in fact, like, that trigger has definitely formed the way I, create goals. It informs the way I act, to come off as intelligent. And now that I'm letting that go, I'm really interested to see what I act like without that motivation, that negative motivation to prove that I'm intelligent. Okay, so now I want to share just a list of simple lessons that I learned over the last year, and then I'll finish out the video with sharing more about my commitments moving forward into 2020. So the first thing is definitely that I used to think that to be strong is to control your emotions, and now I'm learning that probably one of the strongest things a person can do is choose to feel them and choose to acknowledge them and to work through them rather than suppressing them. This is so hard for me, but I'm working through it, and I genuinely believe that this is true. The next is that experimentation is wonderful. If you're in a phase of life where you're trying to build something, or you're trying to expand yourself, or especially get more clarity on what you want to do next in your life, it's fantastic to experiment and to try new things and to try more things and just to kind of cast your net wide, so to speak. But at a certain point, more is not better. I believe now that I've received a lot of clarity on certain questions I had about myself and how I want to operate in the world. Now that clarity has been achieved, more is not better. Maybe simpler is better. Next, one really big lesson I learned is that success is primarily built off of time, patience, and persistence. And not only that, but it is built off of a daily commitment to making good, small choices, one after another, and some big choices every now and then, but it's really a daily practice of making good choices and being patient while you wait for the result. But I find that chasing success is much better when you have another motivation pushing you besides just the motivation of the end result. Also, part of success is recognizing when you've made a bad decision and being very quick to adapt and change your approach and move on to take that failure and turn it into a lesson that fuels your next success. Like, that is the practice of a successful person. The next thing is that it's good to be focused, especially in a professional sense, but it's not necessarily good to be so focused on success in one area that you actually cheapen how good and how full life can be outside of just that one focus you have, when you forget like there are other parts to life that are just as important. And so it's good, I believe, to focus for a time and to have kind of this obsessive focus, but be ready and willing to pull out of it when that's no longer appropriate. This next lesson is a really, really big one, especially one that I learned through the process of getting back on the stage. And through that process, I shared in an Instagram post, I really had a hard time believing that I could do it. And what taught me this lesson I'm about to share with you is having someone who believed in me so much that it really carried me through the days when I had very little belief in myself, when I would have said no to the opportunity to perform, when I would have said I can't do it, when I would have said I'm not healed enough in my need to do this, it's not safe. She believed in me and kept holding out the opportunity to me and encouraging to take the next step towards rehearsing and saying yes to the show and then doing it. And it taught me that belief is so crucial in achieving anything. And first off, it's really important to have belief in yourself that it is possible and that you have the resourcefulness, the grit, whatever it is, you have the resources in you to get it done and to do what you have set out before you. I almost dare say that if you don't have belief, you're almost wasting your time doing it. Not every day, because, sometimes we don't have belief and we need to just do the work some days. I'm not saying live your life off of inspiration, but if you are spending more time than not doubting if you're able to do what you're trying to do, seek out the support of someone who believes in you when you have trouble believing in yourself. That's what I do for my clients. I only work with people I genuinely believe in, because I know that anything less would not work for them. It wouldn't serve them. It wouldn't be worth the investment. And anybody, I think we can find someone who is that person for us. So I would encourage you to not only step up your belief in yourself, and I could help you with that through coaching, but also surround yourself with people who believe in you when you're having a hard time. Also, going back to the emotional lessons I learned this year, I want to share that. I learned that sometimes the healing process is painful, inconvenient, and scary. Sometimes there's no reason to want to do it other than knowing that it's the right thing. But it is better to go through it than to have a lifetime of suppression and living with dormant triggers or aversions that subconsciously control your actions and control your life. So that is the process I am on right now, to be quite honest. And I invite some of you, if you relate to having a habit of suppressing your emotions, join me in this process. Yeah, I'm sure it'll really be fruitful for us, even if we don't see that right now. This next lesson comes from just how much change I've experienced. There's been so much change going on in my body, in my life, in almost everything. And what I learned is that there's this desire that I can have, and I'm sure that it's a natural thing for a lot of people. There can be a desire to notice the change, get really uncomfortable with it, and then divert all your energy towards just trying to get back where you were. And you can do that, or you can lean into what the change is teaching you and how it's actually there to make you better. I really enjoy, before I try to just get out of my discomfort with change, I ask, what could this be teaching me? How could this be here to help me grow? And what can I use this growth for? What can I use it to do? And that has really allowed me to have much more of a growth process rather than just staying in the comfort zone I'm used to having and being in. Okay, so this last one is one I'm still learning. I'm still challenging myself with this, but I wrote taking time to ask yourself what you're avoiding and doing those things ASAP is so freeing. Honestly, I feel like a lot of background anxiety happens whenever we see something that we think we should do or we know would be a good idea, and then we get freaked out and we don't do it. That idea doesn't leave. It just kind of is in the back of our mind all the time. And I find that the more we try to avoid something, whether it be emotions, a certain task, whatever it is that you just don't want to face, the more we avoid it, the more it controls us in the backgrounds of our minds, and it actually becomes way scarier than it actually is. We've given it way too much attention and let it run us in the background, instead of just facing it and being like, oh, it's just an email I have to send. Like, quite frankly, it's shocking how often I will catch myself reading an email, and I could choose to respond to it right then and there, but I'll be like, I'm busy, and I'll do something else, and then I have this background kind of tension, little anxiety, oh, I still need to respond to that email, and I could have done it right away. Maybe it's just because I knew it was going to take some thought, and I just didn't want to do it right then. But I'm learning, don't avoid things, just get it done right away, no matter what that is, and you'll have much more freedom in your head, in your headspace for sure. Lastly, going into 2020, I might have already shared this in a previous clip, but after this year of experimentation and just filling my schedule so much, I learned that what I want for the next year is just to live by 2 words. And the fact that I'm just choosing words, I'm not really choosing goals. I mean, I have some goals, but of course I do. But generally, the principles, the idea, the philosophy, the ethic, whatever you want to call it, that is underneath all the goals I want to set are 2 words at the foundation: simplicity in my business and space in my life. I want simplicity and space wherever possible, because that will not only allow me to have less stress, more energy, more presence of mind to do the things that really matter, but it will also leave me open to be able to take on new opportunities, to build better relationships in person, to work on side projects for personal development and professional development, and yeah, so many things, to embrace the unknown, to see where the next year takes me. So I'm really excited to live by those 2 words. And I would definitely love to hear from you. If you do words, do you like to do words, intentions, goals? What works for you? For me, or resolutions, maybe you do resolutions. For me, it's just words. I like to keep it simple. And I'd love to hear from you what your commitments to yourself in the next year are, and what are at least one big lesson that you learned from 2019. I can't wait to hear from you. And I will just end it here. Been talking for a long time. So I hope that you've had a blessed 2019 and that 2020 is really your year, where no matter what you're coming from, you get to be really proud of the fact that you're making new, better, more empowering choices for 2020. So can't wait to support you in the next year, and I will see you next time. Bye.